This is a very exciting evening because we're on our final gathering, fireside chat, and it is for Adzom Drukpa. We, of course, will begin a new series in a different way, and also to know that there's so much more to our book, A Marvelous Garland of Rare Gems, that for almost 9 months we have been learning about these incredible masters and their training, their in-depth learning, and they're passing along the teachings. And this evening is such a wonderful time to complete because it's like coming into the Samden Ling family. Adzom Drukpa, who, of course, for their previous lives, Adzom Rinpoche was the son, Jetsima was the daughter, and Adzom Khyentse Rinpoche was the other son. So 2 sons and a daughter, and these are our teachers, and Adzom Rinpoche was the one who requested that Samden Ling exist and gave us our name and blessings. And here we have Adzom Drukpa, who in their past lives was their father. And his training is also, like every other master's here, just remarkable. When I think about it, it's mind blowing, if I can use that term, that someone in one lifetime can do what someone like Adzom Drukpa has done in his lifetime. So we're going to take a look at his life, his teachings. And at one point, I'm actually going to read you one of the pages from the text, because there was no way to even parse it out. It was just one empowerment transmission by one extraordinary teacher after another. So I do want us to feel the full impact of who these masters are. So for this evening, we are going to begin talking just a little bit about Adzom Drukpa, and then take a look at his training, and then what he was able to pass on and how he was able to pass it on. Once again, he is receiving teachings from masters of different lineages. And we have touched upon this, where the training comes from teachers of all of the Buddhist traditions, and even including the Gönpa. And so that all of these teachers have really passed down the teachings in a way that is non-sectarian. And the word for the non-sectarian is Rime, and I am going to mention that a little bit toward the end, because it's just so precious and so important. So Adzom Drukpa was born, and again, these are lunar calendars, on a full moon in what was called the male water tiger year. And that year was somewhere between 1842 and 1843. Now, he lived until 1924. And here, once again, we're getting very up to date with the masters, what is being passed down and what is being passed down to us. So very precious. He was the son of somebody called Atara, who was a descendant of Tashi Bum, who we've heard about. And Tashi Bum was actually the son of a Mongolian named Dura Talji, who moved from Mongolia into Tibet. And I think it's Amdo. I'm not 100% sure. So we've talked about how there's influences from all of the neighboring countries, India, Pakistan, China, and Sikkim, Bhutan. And now we also have an influence from Mongolia. So Adzom Drukpa was recognized as an incarnation of Adzom Sangye Tashi. So there was a previous Adzom, and this was by a very famous master called Katuk Situ. And also he was recognized as a second tulku of Pema Karpo of the Drukpa Kagyu school. So he was recognized within two schools. And so he was an incarnation of Adzom, so his name was Adzom, and then also within the Drukpa Kagyu school, so he was Adzom Drukpa. And in his own past incarnation, he predicted his own birth. And this does happen frequently, actually. And he predicted the place of his birth, which were white cliffs of Dung Ra in an area called Tram. And Adzom Drukpa dreamt of the sun shining inside of his family tent and just completely filling it. And then something that wouldn't we all love, a Lama named Lama Chopel bestowed upon him as a boy a long life empowerment. So can you imagine being born and then immediately someone bestows the long life empowerment? And he gave him protection cords. There were positive omens surrounding him. There were rainbow arches, and they were also coming into the family tent. And he was seen as a positive, noble, he was seen as positive, noble heritage. And as you know, noble is a word used frequently in Buddhism for quite virtuous and outstanding and upstanding. At the age of 12, he received refuge vows. So can you imagine if we received our refuge vows at the age of 12? And he went with his father and his brother to meet the second Situ Rinpoche. And of course, Situ Rinpoche is also a long lineage. And Situ Rinpoche gave him empowerments, oral transmissions, and teachings. And he also gave him gifts of blessed, it says, form and speech and mind of Buddhists replicas. And Situ Rinpoche wanted him to pass on a cycle that he gave him of Longsel Dorje Ningpo. He received, Adzom Drukpa received a lot of empowerments and teachings, and such as holding the Buddha in one hand, different cycles of sadhanas, meaning practices, and he received these enlightened mind from Ratna Lingpa. He also studied with great Gelugpa teachers. And here again, we have the different traditions impacting each other. And the Gelugpa teachers actually came to Adzom Drukpa, to the White Cliffs of Drakkar, and gave him many teachings and trainings in the Bodhisattva. And this great Gelugpa teacher predicted and said to Adzom Drukpa that your spiritual heritage is that of a Bodhisattva who is in their final incarnation. So his words were, train your mind in bodhicitta, the enlightened mind. Later he met, this is also another famous teacher named Nyla Pema Dudal, and who eventually attained a rainbow body. And so Adzom Drukpa served Pema Dodril, and this was considered an honor, would hand him the empowerment manuals during an empowerment. And Pema Dodril told him and gave him a prediction: you should let your hair grow and become a householder, wearing Sambhogakaya ornaments and enjoying the pleasures of the five senses. And if while doing so, you explain and spread the teachings of Dzogchen approach, everyone, high and low, according to their own individual fortunes, will be benefited. So this was not exactly in keeping with what Adzom Drukpa thought he was going to do for himself, because his vision for himself was that he was going to become a fully ordained monk who would eventually meet his death without regret. So that was his personal goal. And he repeatedly asked Pema Dodril if he could not become a householder. And Pema Dodril said, the time would eventually come when you will let your hair grow and it will become clear to you. And so eventually we know that did come to pass. And then once again, we have this phrase, like one vase filling another. Pema Dodril bestowed upon Adzom Drukpa empowerments, teachings, oral transmissions for profound cycles such as natural freedom. He also prophesied that Adzom Drukpa would be the custodian of his teachings, and that he would explain and spread the Dharma to many. Adzom Drukpa also went on to study with another Gelugpa teacher, and he studied texts by Atisha, and he studied the graduated path to enlightenment and the graduated path of Dzogchen and Mahamudra. And he also accumulated 100,000 prayers of praise of Tsongkhapa to honor him. And he adopted a very pure outlook that embraced the Nyingma school, a school we've mentioned called the Sarma school of Buddhism, and also Bonpo. And again, he was quite non-sectarian, both having studied in different traditions and also acknowledged and honored all of those traditions. C2 Rinpoche advised Adzom Drukpa to seek out a very great teacher named Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, who was like Manjushri himself. And he said that this teacher was like, would champion all of the teachings of the entire range of the land of snow. And Adzom Drukpa met him 27 times, and he received a great many empowerments and transmissions from Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, a very great master. And he bestowed on him the mother and child cycles of the Nyingtig teachings, all of the tantras, explanatory commentaries, pith instructions of the Nyingtig approach of utter lucidity, without exception, and again, like one vase filling another. He invested in Adzom Drukpa as his inner heart son and recognized him as his regent in the ultimate sense, and said that they each had the same realization. And that is quite extreme. And so I want to read actually one of the pages that I had mentioned that I would read, because there was just no way um, to sum up the vastness of the training of Adzom Drukpa. And this chapter was actually a little bit different than some of them, because it said less about him, and every page was just about one extraordinary empowerment after another. So I want to give that its due. And if you're following along, the chapter on Adzom Drukpa Rinpoche begins on page 290. I am going to go to the bottom of 292 over to 293. And I would say in the listening, there's so many terms and teachers that just to listen, just to know, oh my goodness, this is what he did. This is what he learned. This is how he spent his time. So again, this at the bottom of page 292 was what I was talking about, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo bestowing upon him. And just to continue, that he also gave him the unobstructed enlightened intent, the sadhana of the enlightened mind. And now we go to the top of page 293, the treasury of enlightened qualities, the ultimate lineage for the cycle, naturally occurring and naturally arising original purity, the accomplishment of life force of masters of awareness, revealed by Lotsun Namkha Jigme, the peaceful, wrathful, and lion-headed forms of Guru Rinpoche, revealed by Jotson Ningpo, the Dzogchen teaching manual by Namkha Gyatso of a Katak monastery, very famous monastery, the blessing rituals and teachings of the deity Naro Kechari, the extensive empowerment cycle, the compendium of all sadhanas, the teachings of view, meditation, and conduct from the heart drop of the accomplished masters, the Vajra nectar cycle, the full range of cycles from the oral lineage, the heart drop of the exalted goddess of immortality, the sadhanas of enlightened mind, entitled Dispelling All Obstacles and Spontaneous Accomplishments of Wishes, the profound heart drop of Tara. Most notably, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo honored Adzom Drukpa as the custodian of the teachings of the cycle, gathering of all the Daikini secrets, and bestowed on him the full range of primary and secondary empowerments in the teachings. During the exercising empowerment for the Dakini of activity, as Adzom Drukpa put on the formal robes of a tantric master and cast out the ritual torma, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo had clear visions of the destruction of many cities of barbarians. When the empowerments and teachings ended, the guru offered a Gana chakra, which means a large soak feast, and showed signs of delight, laughing heartily and often. At Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo's urging, Adzom Drukpa went to see Jamyang Patrul Rinpoche, again, another very great master and great lineage, from whom he received the transmission for the treasury of precious hidden teachings and the treasury of mantra of the Kagyu school. Kenshin Pema Dorje of Dzogchen Monastery granted him the extensive empowerments and teachings of the cycle innermost heart drop of the Guru, and advised that he maintain the conduct of a yogin like Lotsun Namkha Jigme. Patrul, now here we go, we know who this is, Patrul Chokyi Wangpo treated Adzom Drukpa with great affection, teaching him the preliminary practices of his work, the oral transmission of the Guru Samantabhadra, giving him the maturing empowerments, liberating instructions, physical exercises of advanced yogic practices. For the heart drop of Longchenpa, we know that is, the experiential teachings based on timeless awareness as the guiding principle, a detailed teaching on the aspirational prayer of noble conduct. He also encouraged Adzom Drukpa to teach students of his own, from Anpo Jigme of Nyuka. Adzom Drukpa received the empowerments and teachings for the practice of Chud. We know that, severance, as transmitted by Trilshik Wangdrak Gyatso, Trilshik Rinpoche, another great master. Adzom Drukpa studied extensively with the precious guru Nyingma Lungtak, receiving teachings on the 3 cycles of being at ease. We know about those cycles, the being at ease, we have those 3 books. The 7 treasuries, we know that, Longchenpa, we talked about that last week. And the 4 higher collections, the heart drops, receiving an explanation of engaging in the conduct of a bodhisattva. Mipam Rinpoche, who was Manjushri in person, taught Adzom Drukpa. Mipam, very, very famous. His own works, including explanations of the Dohas of Saraha, a topical survey of Buddha nature, a commentary on the compendium, the lamp of certain knowledge, the prayer known as the swift accomplishment of wishes, Tamtrol Kunsen, and we're at the top of page 294, Dechen Dorje, the tulku of Jigme Gyalwe Nugu, we know that name, passed on to Adzom Drukpa, the empowerments, oral transmissions for the heart drop of the Dakinis, the oral transmission of the Guru Samantabhadra, Kempo Norbo Tenzin of Minyak gave him the transmission for the compendium of all sadhanas in its entirety, as well as its own arrangement of empowerments teachings for the Gopine practices of Mahakarunakika and longevity sadhana, Gyaltse Namgyal, who was the son of Do Khyentse, also very famous, and a senior Kempo at Dorje Drak Monastery, empowered Adzom Drukpa into the northern Terma cycles. Situ Choku Gyatso of Katak Monastery, very famous, bestowed on him the empowerments, oral transmission for the 3 roots, the heart drop of utter lucidity, a terma of enlightened intent from Khyentse Rinpoche, from Katak Jeon Pema Gyaltsen. Adzom Drukpa received the oral transmission for the tantras of the Nyingma tradition, the collected works of Getse Mahapandita, Sonam Gyatsen, head abbot of Kangsar and Nor, bestowed on him 3 cycles focusing on Kachari together with exhaustive collections of instructions connected from them. From Minyak Kempo, very famous, Adzom Drukpa requested the oral transmission for the precious treasury of enlightened qualities, Jigme Lingpa's root text, as his own commentary. And we have here that book. So this is available. And this is the precious treasury of enlightened qualities, Jigme Lingpa's own book. So we are getting very close to where we are, books 1 and books 2. So here we are, us, here we are. the incredible, this is called the fortunate ones, that Adzom Drukpa, who requested these teachings, Treasury of Precious Qualities by Jigme Lingpa, we have the books. They are available. And that's how close this is to us. And so then, let's see here. Okay, so the precious treasury of enlightened qualities, Jigme Lingpa's root verses, as well as his own commentary, a drop from the ocean, the commentary by Dodrup Chen, also very famous, Kempo Sultram, very famous, a Gyatso of Ling Song passed on to him the oral transmission for the precious Kangjur. Now that is a huge set of Buddhist text within Tibet. While Kempo Kalseng Wangchuk of Katak Monastery gave him all of the existing lineages of oral transmission of the Tengyur, and that's the rest of the trainings. In addition, he was recognized by Terchen Orgyen Rinchen Lingpa as the custodian of that master's revealed teachings. He received these in their entirety so that his mind and that of the master blended and became one. And we're not done. Adzom Drukpa, and this becomes the key. So there was no way to summarize the vast amount of empowerments, trainings, teachings, transmissions, and also that he upholds. No way to even summarize that except to read it. But here, with all of that, Adzom Drukpa, and this is the final paragraph on page 294, made a firm commitment to practice only Dzogchen until he reached the furthest limit of the four visions. Although over the years, numerous people approached him, urged him that he oversee and direct monastic communities, he never accepted. He did not fall into either extreme of having too many or too few material possessions. He never amassed a personal fortune or administered a large estate. You're going to like this. At the age of 32, we're only at age 32, he was guided not only by many gurus and meditation deities, and this becomes key. And this is where the extraordinary nature of these masters comes in. So at 32, he was guided not only by many gurus and meditation deities. So again, he's being guided by deities, but also the timeless awareness embodiment of Kunchen Jigme Lingpa. So he has the very essence of Jigme Lingpa guiding him. Extraordinary. Thus, his realization deepened, no doubt. Fulfilling the prophecy he had received, Adzom Drukpa took on the appearance of a lay tantric master with long hair, white felt hat, strings of agate and coral, a reliquary around his neck, full-sleeved robes, and the rest of what is known as the attributes of royal ease. Although he had general indications and clear visions of profound termas, and remember termas are those teachings that were hidden, he revealed only a few treasures of enlightened intent, such as the accounts of Dorje Drolo and Vajrapani. Again, his main focus was Dzogchen, and he chose not to reveal termas. So that is quite extraordinary. He chose not to take over. A lot of times what happens is that monasteries are offered, positions are offered, and he decided on none of them. So confirming the prophecies of many holy masters, principally Katak Situ, Chokyi Lodro, Kunzik Khyentse Rinpoche, and someone we know well, Patrul Rinpoche, Adzom Drukpa continually bestowed the empowerments and extremely detailed teachings that bring students to spiritual maturity. So here we have that he is teaching, and it says that throughout his life, he taught numerous great masters. So he became a teacher's teacher, a master's teacher. And he taught tulkus, he taught kings, he taught, it says Sikamese masters, he taught Dzogchen, he taught prince and princesses, and many who held other traditions as well. And both it says the omniscient, all-seeing Katak Situ Pandita Chokyi Gyatso and Drewang Dzogchen Rinpoche Chokyi Dorje, who was Vimalamitra in person, invited Adzom Drukpa to their respective seats. And the former received from him the entire range of empowerments and teachings for the 4 higher collections of the Heart Drop, while the latter received detailed development teachings on the preliminary and the main body of practice, concluding phase of Dzogchen. So it says Adzom Drukpa gave all the gurus, tulkus, khenpos, teachers residing in their monastic seats a great variety of appropriate empowerments and teachings, both extensive and abridged. He was not only a teacher's teacher, he was a teacher for, again, kings, queens, monastics, lay people, teaching them equally. It said he attracted students of all stations from widely different languages, groups, regions, Eastern, Central, Southwest Tibet, Northeastern regions of Amdo, Kunu, and Northern India, China, the southern border, it's called of Lodrok and Bhutan. Foremost among them were masters of Yangten, Gyatso, of Jamyang Khyentse, and it has lists of teachers who became masters who he taught, and they received teachings. A Buddhist king also received the teachings, and Adzom Drukpa carried out his enlightened activities, bringing purpose to all connected to him in many different ways through his profound and extensive empowerments and teachings. And then it says, as the sun casting brilliant light on the teachings of sublime Dzogchen approach, he thus completed his task. Oh my goodness, great purpose in life. To all of his students, Adzom Drukpa said, it could have been my lot to reveal profound termas whose existence I received signs of. So he received signs that there were termas that he could have revealed. However, I have always focused solely on the Dzogchen approach of utter lucidity and have gained such confidence in it that I need not drool over other teachings. And then he said to his students, you too should make Dzogchen your practice. I assure you, it will never let you down. And he said, I've never forgotten the aspiration I made as a child that all connected to me, even those who have only heard my name, that's us, but especially those who have made a connection by offering money or possessions, making aspirations, or receiving teachings, will take rebirth as part of my retinue in a pure Buddha realm. Nice. Because I have not impaired my own or anyone else's samaya, I can be described as one who is delighted to pass away, yet happy to stay. But now it would be better for me to pass away than to stay on as an old man. For the guru prophesies that I am to lead some 300 million beings to freedom in the Bardo. That's a lot of people passing through the Bardo. When he was about to pass away, he spoke briefly of his many visions of the mandala of the host of peaceful and wrathful deities from the web of magical display and of Vajraklaya, of escorts of dakinis, and from midnight onward, many pea-side spheres of light continuously issued from his nostrils until at dawn, his enlightened intent resolved into space. That's how he died. So he just resolved back into space. As his end approached, the brilliance of the sun's rays waned, deafening sounds were heard Other portents were observed. His precious remains were kept in state for 60 days, while offerings and memorial rituals were carried out on a grand scale. And on the 10th day of the second Tibetan month, 13 gurus, tulkus, khenpos, and teachers, including Pawo Yangtze, presided over a corresponding number of mandala rituals during the cremation ceremony. On that occasion, the faithful had many visions. Adzom Drukpa's heart, tongue, and eyes were unharmed by the flames of the funeral pyre, and many relics, and we've talked about relics before, appeared with amazing signs. And then this is where it becomes exciting for us. The precious Lord Guru's enlightened activity was carried out by his sublime children of his enlightened form, speech, and mind, his sons, Jigme Dorje, Pema Wangyal, and his daughter, Jigme. And so we are talking about Adzom Pale Rinpoche, Adzom Gyaltse Rinpoche, and Jetsama. So in that lifetime, they were the ones that carried forth his teachings. And by countless other students whose minds he freed, having brought them to realization. His sublime tulku was born, fulfilling the prophecy of the fifth Drewang Dzogchen Rinpoche. And then it goes on to the next chapters. The next chapter is actually quite good on Jamyang Khyentse Chokyi Lodro. And then after that is Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, who, as you know, I met. Then there is a reference in here. And actually the chapter on Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche was him writing his own. So that's kind of cool. Then it talks about, we mentioned that word rime, which is the recognition of each school of Buddhism in a non-sectarian way. So there's a note, there is actually a nice, in the notes section on page 667, note number 18 at the bottom. It says, though not a former school or movement, the Rime non-sectarian approach gained masters as Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, who I mentioned, and Jamyang Khyentse Lodro Taye, both of them mentioned here. The approach was and is an attempt to break down sectarian bias and misconceptions among the schools of Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and it emphasizes tolerance and respect for other traditions while stressing the importance of one's own commitment to one's own chosen path. The truly great Rime masters studied and practiced methods promulgated by all schools. And this we have learned from this book. We have learned how each of these masters studied. We have learned the different teachers they went to or came to them. And so I leave you with that concept of Rime, and also as a reflection on the whole book of A Marvelous Garland of Rare Gems, because we've traveled far. We have traveled quite far in all of the chapters of these masters. And so the reason that we are completing our fireside chats with Adzom Drukpa is that we see the great wealth that we have been given and are passed on through his children and who are now our teachers. So thank you for all of these months of extraordinary. We're so fortunate to have even heard their names or heard how they practiced and how they passed on the teachings, and that we are so graced to have received these. So once again, we will stop our recording